everyone, and welcome back to my series of tutorials on the point and click module I built for Dreams. This tutorial follows on from tutorial 1, so you'll need to do that or watch that to get to this point. Since tutorial 1, I've just added some assets from the Dreamiverse just to help speed up this tutorial a bit. In this tutorial today, we're going to look at inspectables and play a dialogue when we inspect the items. So, to explain what inspectables are, is essentially anything, be it an object or some scenery that you'd like the gamer to be able to inspect. And then have some dialogue or some action performed when they do that. So, first thing we are going to want to do is, if you haven't already, is add an object into the scene. I've added a jug here and a painting from the Dreamiverse, just as my example items. Once you've done that, you are going to want to search for the point and click builder module, and in the collection you will find the point and click builder logic inspectable chip, which is this, and then what you want to do is just surface snap that to the object you want to inspect. Once you've done that, you want to just open up the inspectable and chip and give it an item number. So all inspectables need to have a unique item ID. So we'll call this one, let's give this one 1. And all inspectables, much like the floor, needs to be labelled as a target. In order for the logic to understand that that's an inspectable, as opposed to this wall which isn't. So we've done that one, and we will do the same for the jug. Just put that on there and open that up, change that to item 2. So now when you've done that, we can jump in and test it. And when we hover over there, now we get an inspect prompt on the imp. And when we press square to inspect, RTO or your puppet will go to location. At the moment, because we haven't changed any settings, RTO will just go to the very nearest spots you can get to the inspectable. If that jug was on the floor, in fact, let's just show you. If that jug is on the floor, RTO will attempt to stand on it, which you don't want. So what you really want to do is, again, go into the inspectable chip, and in here is a tag and detect microchip. So you want to open that, and you have a follow me tag. So as you can see, the follow me tag is currently in the center of this picture. And what we really want to do is put that somewhere down here on the floor, so that when you inspect that object, your puppet will stop at this location rather than trying to get on it. And the same if jug, just want to change the follow me location, and we'll put that in front of the desk table. So now when we test the game and we inspect, RTO will stop short of the painting, and when we click on inspect on this jug, she should stand somewhere around about there. So what's not happening at the moment is when you inspect, RTO is not saying anything, so let's fix that. What we want to do next is add some dialogue when RTO inspects the various objects, and to do that, again, we have a chip, and it's just called the player dialogue chip, and we want to import that into the scene. Now you can put this anywhere really, but obviously a obvious place to put it would be on the puppet itself, so we'll do that. If we open up the dialogue chip, you'll see two more chips inside, one for inspectables, which is what we're working on now, and one for inventoriables, which we'll work on in another tutorial at a later date. So open up the inspectables chip. In here we have a wireless receiver which is receiving the inspectable item number. When it gets the item number, it uses this selector, so item number 1 will use the B output, so A is always 0, so B is 1, C 2, D 3, and so on and so on. So because we're inspecting a painting over there, which is item number 1, we'll open this inspectable. And we have another selector inside here, and this cycles through the various dialogue options. So as you can see in here, we've got a couple of subtitle displays that show some example dialogue, so we could just change that. So now when we test the game again and we inspect the painting, we get the dialogue at the bottom, and if we inspect it again, we will get the second piece of dialogue, and if we inspect it a third time, because we've only got 2 pieces of dialogue, it'll cycle back through. What we haven't done is give RTO any dialogue for the jug, but that's easy enough to solve, so we'll just do that now. And this time all we need to do is we're just going to copy this inspectable chip, just clone it, move it down and wire that up, and then when we go in there we can change and when we inspect now, we'll get text to go with it. What we might find, because we haven't changed any of the settings, when you hover over the area near the jug, I'm getting quite a distance away and I'm still getting the inspect logic, which we don't want. The reason for that is, by default, the object has a trigger zone. It's a fairly big one. By default, what you need to do really is make that smaller, to the size very roughly of your inspectable size and shape. So we'll make that like so, and then when you then test that again, you can get a lot closer to the inspect before it displays the inspect logic. What you may also find when inspecting is RTO will say her dialogue option before she gets there. Sort of starts way out here, but you probably only want her to say it when she gets there. Again, that is another trigger zone in the logic. If you go back into the tag and detect chip, there's another trigger zone, again fairly big by default. What you want to do really with this would be to make the zone smaller so that he doesn't start speaking before she gets there. So we just want to make that a little bit smaller so she only speaks when she gets there. And when we test that, it won't start quite so early. Now, what you may want to do is, instead of just having the subtitles, you may want to do some voice acting, or get somebody that can voice act to do some voice acting. That's very simple. Really, all you have to do is, instead of having just the subtitles displaying here, you would have a timeline, and you put that on there. You'd add your subtitles to the timeline, and then you'd add your voice acting. So it's a jug. When you now power this instead of the text, so you want to power that into there. You want to set this to once, and you want to reduce down the timeline time. So when this now plays, it'll display the juggy dialogue just as that, and it's a jug dialogue with my terrible voice acting. So let's give that a go. It's a jug. It's a jug. And that's it really for this tutorial. So that's how inspectables work. We'll go over some of this logic in the 2.5 tutorial at some point. But for now, I hope that helps. Thanks.